All right, geometry. We're talking about use and proportional relationships, and this is going to sound super nerdy of me, but I really think this is cool. This is something about math that I think is super useful, and it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, like I could use that. I could use that anywhere. But this is about finding measurements of things that are maybe too big to measure or too small to measure or things like that. And we're going to do that based on the similarity between triangles. So we're going to use the information we know about triangles in general and take information that we can get about a certain triangle and then make judgments about a bigger triangle that doesn't necessarily have those stated measurements. So you'll see what we're doing in just a second here. So what we're going to do is, first of all, or I guess, yeah, we'll go through this example. So Tyler wants to find the height of a telephone pole. And so that's going to be represented by this H right here. So that's what we're trying to find. He measured the pole's shadow and his own shadow and then made a diagram. So here's the the height of the shadow. So the length of the shadow is 38 feet 4 inches. And his height, or his shadow's length, is 7 foot 8 inches. And we know that these are both right angles between the height and the distance, because we know that they stand straight up. And Tyler claims that he is 5'9". That looks like a G. 5'9". Okay, so essentially what we're going to do is say that, okay, if the sun is casting the same angle of shadow, like this, right? And we know that a 5'9" person casts a 7 foot 8 inch shadow, how tall would the telephone pole have to be to cast a 38 foot 4 inch shadow? So that's what we're trying to find there, and that's how we're going to do it. So based on this, we can find this, because these triangles are similar. So this is basically a blown up version of this, so we have to figure out when this one turns into 38 feet 4 inches, what does 5 feet 9 inches turn into for H? So to do that, we're going to use our proportions, and our proportions are going to be 5 foot 9 inches over 7 foot 8 inches. There's triangle 1, and that's going to be equal to, this relationship is going to be equal to the relationship between H, because we want to have corresponding sides and corresponding spots. So we've got the side and the side, and then we've got the bottom and the bottom right here. So we're going to go 38 foot 4 inches. And we are going to, what's it called? Translate, I guess. We're going to translate this into just inches or just feet. So 5 foot 9 inches, I know, is going to be 5.75 feet. And we'll have that over 7 foot 8 inches, which is going to be 7 point, well, that's 2/3. So I'll just do 7 2/3. And I'll go 5 3/4. 7 2/3, 5 3/4. And that's equal to H over 38 1/3. So now we've got to multiply these. We're going to cross multiply, as we always do. I'm going to start doing some work over here a little bit. So if we cross multiply 5 3/4 by 38 1/3, that's a little ugly. That's a little ugly. I don't know how to do 5 3/4 times 38 1/3 off the top of my head. But one thing that we could do is turn these into improper fractions. That's what the word is. So we would multiply 38 times 3 and add 1, and that's going to give us 119. That's what 115. Yeah, 115 over 3. And 5 3/4 is going to be 23/4. And so if you're not following along with me right now, these numbers I pulled from here. They started at 5 foot 9 inches and 38 feet 4 inches. And then I turned them into fractions, with this being inches out of the foot, inches out of the foot, and then I multiplied these for cross multiplication, and that's where I'm at. And so now I know that when I multiply, I can just multiply straight across. So I'll get some massive number over 3, or over 12, 2,645 it looks like. Such a pleasant number. And then we've got to do cross multiplication with the other ones. So we've got 7 2/3 times h. Improper fraction of that is going to be 23/3. So 23/3 times h, and that's equal to 2,645 over 12. And so the way we do this is divide by 23/3. And dividing by 23/3 is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So dividing by 23/3 is going to be the same as multiplying by 3 23/3. And to do this, again, just multiply across, and we end up with, hopefully y'all are using your calculator, but we end up with 7,935 over 276, and that can be simplified down to 28 feet and 9 inches. So, now that we've simplified it down to 28 feet 9 inches, let's think about it in the context of this problem. So we'll say that h equals 28 feet 9 inches. It's also right here. But what this means is that since we know that Tyler, who's 5 foot 9, casts a 7 foot 8 inch shadow, the telephone pole, in order to cast a 38 foot 4 inch shadow, like we have set up here, would have to be 28 feet and 9 inches long. And we figured that out by changing the feet and inches to a fraction, and then changing those to an improper fraction while we do cross multiplication. And cross multiplication allows us to figure out what these ratios are and what h would be as the missing variable. And that's proportional relationships example 1.